Months before his death, people close to Michael Jackson received a phone call. The voice on the other end is a hushed, breathless whisper, a series of warnings about not trusting those in his inner circle, and a repeated insistence that he was being watched. On June 25, 2009, those warnings met a grim reality. A 911 call originated from a rented mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. When paramedics entered the private bedroom, they found the biggest entertainer on the planet unresponsive, with his personal doctor standing over him. He was pronounced dead within hours. The ensuing trial produced an official record. Michael Jackson died from a drug overdose, and the doctor responsible was sentenced to prison for involuntary manslaughter. But that legal conclusion leaves specific details unsettled. The drug that killed him was a powerful surgical anesthetic, restricted to hospital use, yet it was being stored in a residential nightstand. And when the singer's breathing stopped, the doctor in the room waited critical minutes before calling for help. A coroner's report provides the physiological cause of a heart stopping, but it doesn't account for the climate of fear leading up to that night. The gap between the medical facts and the human context created the void that the public has been trying to fill for 15 years. By 2009, Jackson's financial situation was strained. He hadn't toured in over a decade, and his path to stability was a grueling 50-show London residency. The entire enterprise depended on his ability to maintain a relentless rehearsal schedule. Rehearsals aggravated Jackson's chronic insomnia. To ensure their star could rest and stay on schedule, concert promoter AEG Live agreed to pay a reported $150,000 a month for a personal cardiologist, Dr. Conrad Murray. Murray's role was to manage Jackson's sleep. However, the treatment he chose wasn't a standard sedative. Night after night, in a private bedroom, he administered a drug called propofol. Propofol is a hospital-grade anesthetic. Because it can stop a person's breathing without warning, it requires an anesthesiologist to constantly monitor vitals with specialized equipment. In a home setting, those safeguards were non-existent. What happened in that house was an unprecedented medical compromise. The standard protocols of a hospital were abandoned to meet the requirements of a high-stakes tour. According to trial testimony, the morning of June 25th followed a desperate pattern. After a series of sedatives failed to put Jackson to sleep, Murray administered a dose of propofol. Then, by his own account, the doctor left his patient alone. When Murray found Jackson unresponsive, he did not call for help. Phone records and testimony showed a critical delay where the doctor reportedly attempted CPR himself on a soft bed, a method medical experts call ineffective, before 911 was finally contacted. Jackson was transported to UCLA Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. The Los Angeles County coroner ruled the death a homicide, citing acute propofol intoxication as the cause. In 2011, Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. He served 2 years in prison, marking the official end of the criminal case. The jury settled who administered the drug, but that verdict didn't address the behavioral questions surrounding the delay or the silence in that room while a man was dying. The unresolved details of his death eventually drifted back to the most scrutinized part of Jackson's life, Neverland Ranch. It was built as a personal sanctuary, but it remains the site of the contested allegations that permanently altered his public standing. Since his death, various theories have appeared online, attempting to link Jackson to Jeffrey Epstein, or suggesting he was silenced to prevent revelations about the ranch. Journalistic investigations and legal reviews of the evidence show no verifiable link between Michael Jackson's death and Jeffrey Epstein. No testimony or forensic report has ever established such a connection. These theories rely on the overlapping infamy of two men rather than physical evidence. They provide a sensational explanation for a story that, in reality, is defined by clinical negligence. Inventing a murder conspiracy moves the focus away from the documented reality. The actual tragedy is found in the medical failures and corporate pressures that occurred in Jackson's final months. The skepticism surrounding the case is reinforced by the civil courts. In 2013, Jackson's family sued AEG Live, alleging the company was responsible for hiring and supervising the doctor who caused his death. While the jury found AEG not liable, the trial revealed internal emails. These records showed that executives were aware of Jackson's fragile health, yet continued to prioritize the tour's schedule. The defense also introduced a theory that Jackson may have self-administered the final dose of propofol while left alone, a claim that remained unproven but added to the overall ambiguity of the room. These legal fragments align with documented accounts from those close to him. Friends and family confirmed that Jackson was increasingly paranoid in his final weeks, expressing a fear that people wanted to remove him to gain control of his music catalog. Many people reject the official story because they see an imbalance in the outcome. A single doctor went to prison, while the corporate entities that funded the operation and established the timeline faced no legal repercussions. When the speculation is removed, the record is clear. Jackson died of acute propofol intoxication, and his doctor was convicted. The claims involving Jeffrey Epstein or a murder plot lack legal backing. They remain online conversation, but not the investigative record. The documented story is enough on its own, a narrative of isolation, tour-related pressure, and a drug that should never have been in a private home. Looking at the emails and the timeline of that morning, do you think the courtroom captured the full story of Michael Jackson's death? A legal verdict provides a conclusion to state, but when the human elements of pressure and fear remain, it rarely provides closure for the public.